Martin Desfontaines, obviously, thank you for accepting to be on the panel. One of the senior representatives of TotalEnergies and the CEO of TotalEnergies in Angola. Obviously, TotalEnergies, one of the largest GMNCs in the world, and one of France's greatest exports, I would say, in terms of prestige and presence. To his left is Rajit Nanda, who is a board member of Vision Invest, and he is also the CEO of DataVault. Vision Invest is one of the largest investment and operating consortium out of Saudi Arabia, and is one of the largest in the Middle East, with great interest, great track record already in Africa via ACWA Power, and looking to do much more, in particular on the data centers. So really, gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. Rajit, if I could, si vous pouvez juste vous reculer un peu comme ça. If I could start with you. You're such a large... thank you so much. You're such a large consortium, obviously, out of the Middle East. We have, dealt with your esteemed organization for a couple of decades now. Just a simple question. You are in 14 emerging markets. You have $120 billion of assets as Vision Invest. So zoom in on Africa. Why Africa, and why are you here?
Thank you, Rassam, for Standard Bank to have me over here, and thank you also to my distinguished co-panelist. I'm probably one of the exceptionally few non-Africans here in this esteemed and august group of about 200 people here discussing Africa. But let me give. I represent one of the, well, not one of the largest industrial holding companies from the Middle East, Vision Invest, which has a number of flagship entities. The biggest claim to fame is ACWA Power, which has about $100 billion of assets. It's the largest utility and water listed entity in the whole of Middle East and North Africa. Significant assets also in Africa, in Morocco, in Egypt, in South Africa, and now in Senegal. But let me a little bit explain the Middle East at a macro level, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at a micro level, and the connection here with the African continent. If you take a step back and you think through this, there are a number of interesting points of comparison. First and foremost, I would say, is the inherent ambition that sits across both of them. Saudi, for the ones that read about it and for the ones who don't know much about it, is the world's single largest socio-economic transformation that is happening in the world. This is a country with $300 billion of GDP 9 years back, and ever since the leadership came and took control, the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister, and he put at play Vision 2030. Today, the kingdom represents a $1.2 trillion economy. Facts about the country that people don't know: it has the index for the happiest nation for people below the age of 30. And that brings me to the second comparison beyond the ambition, which is the strength of the demography between Africa and the Kingdom of Saudi. In Saudi, 70% of the population is below the age of 35. 60% of the population is below the age of 30. Africa, I wish any place on planet Earth would have the same amount of strength on the demography of Africa. Is unbelievable. And the fact of the matter that most of the economists, including the discussions that we had today, seem to forget is demography is destiny. Your biggest resource for all that you believe and all that you talk about is not your mining and mineral wealth. It is your demography, because that is the future, and that future is connected with the present today. This is a continent of 1.4 billion people that is doubling itself by 2050. It's a continent that today provides 850 million people in the global workforce. By 2035, that's just 10 years from now, it will be providing 1.5 billion people in the global workforce. You have to focus on making the best out of your strength, which is your demography. That should be your first and the most important wealth that you have to work on, and make sure that they are not stolen by others, because that's what the world will do. In 2050, 85% of the workforce will come from Africa. And if you don't retain that talent, if you don't build on that talent, you will lose all the strengths, and you're back to where you were for the last 20, 30, 40 years. The third important comparison that I would put on the table is, and we spoke about it in the first panel discussion of this morning, which is the changing nature of the geopolitics of the world. Where we have seen in the past, since the end of the World War II, a US-led development of the world, now having moved to what I called a multipolar world. Both Africa and the Kingdom of Saudi have now realized in this last half a decade the strength that they bring to the changing nature of the center of gravity in this geopolitical order, the new global order, the new multipolar order. And I would say that the last but equally important points of comparison is the continent and the Kingdom of Saudi. Both of them understand the structural gap that exists, and both of them are working towards implementing whatever is required in order to bridge this structural gap. So these are some of the key elements. As a group, we believe in the demographic strength beyond the resources, much, much more beyond the resources and so many other obvious strengths that are always spoken about in the context of the continent. For us, we have been in this continent for the last 12, 13 years. We have put about $15 billion of infrastructure capital at play, and both through Aqua Power and directly through Vision. And we continue to believe, and we have a lot of capital that we would like to put into play in the continent. But for us, it is just not about capital, it's about bringing the right level of capital, and maybe we'll speak about it once.
Sure. Thank you very much, Rajit. And that talks a lot to the way close to home in our Standard Bank DNA. You know, we've been obviously working on this corridor between the Gulf and Africa, and that intensity is obviously increasing by the day, and Vision Invest is a good example of that. Let me turn to you, Dr. Martin. So obviously TotalEnergies, you know, is a giant, the GM&C space and the energy space. You've had transformations throughout the life of this company. You've been in Africa for a while, in particular in Angola. Just give us your observations, basically, as a major operating company on the continent, and the stuff that you're doing now that maybe before you did not maybe dare to do in Africa, please.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor for me to be amongst all of you guys. Bankers, merci. You know what I would say, I would try to explain you why do we like Africa, actually, because
Yes.
Africa is, with Middle East, one of our major poles in Total Energy. And we have, you know, we are quite old company, 100 years so far, and our presence in Africa is dating, we are in Africa for 90 years. And we have basically managed to build some trusty relations with our counterparts, and this is extremely important in our domain. And when I mean trust, you know, it's quite important, and it goes in both way. The host country, they can trust Total Energy in bringing what we can bring to them, which is basically, you know, first of all, expertise, and managing to materialize, you know, to valorize some resources that they have. It started with geological resources, but now we are more and more speaking about wind, solar, and hydro. And it's really, you know, our goal to bring all what we can in order to keep innovating, and that's super important. What also we can bring is you know, finance, of course, and for that I would like to thank Standard Bank, because we have quite a lot of, you know, projects ongoing, big projects, huge projects, like in Mozambique, in Uganda, and where, you know, we managed to get some quite important financing with a lot of banks, actually. And that was great. And coming back to the trust, you know, it goes also in the other way, where our host countries, they know what we want, what we ask them. And basically what we ask them is stability. And this is extremely important. So we ask those host country some kind of fiscal, contractual stability, in order that when we launch a project of $1 billion, the fiscal terms and the contractual framework stay the same. So this is this trusty atmosphere that we managed to build, and that we are, you know, benefiting from in Africa. And at the moment, we have, as you know, we are in we will start this year in Uganda a major project. We have lifted the force majeure situation in Mozambique. So we are resuming our big gas project, LNG plant, 30 million tons in the north of the country. And only on those two projects, you know, Uganda and Mozambique, we managed to bring more than 30 banks, and a bit less than $20 billion of external financing. So this is quite important, and looking forward, you know, we have important project in Namibia with a quite super interesting acreage, and we hope to sanction a project that is called Venus this coming in this year, and then after we'll have another one which is the Mopane that will come probably 2 years after. So it's quite the perspective for us in Africa is huge, and at the moment it's moving also towards new energies.
Yeah.
Because we have about 1 billion of watt that are under construction at the moment in Africa, and another one which is basically under development. Quite a lot of projects here in South Africa, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Martin. And just as an add-on to that question, you've been with the company, you know, in leadership roles for over 3 decades, and you've been dealing in Africa for a good part of your career there. How do you see, you know, you've been in Africa for 90 years, so how do you see the way that senior management, obviously Patrick now, but throughout the decades, how did they look at Africa? Has this changed? It's going in the right direction, obviously, because you're doing more. The risk premium, you know, the African premium, as they call it. How do you see all this?
You know, I have experienced myself different CEOs, and with Chourougs, and after Christophe de Margeries, and after and Patrick Pouyanné at the moment, and I think that they all, and the company as a whole, it's not only one man, you know, but we are all thinking local, and when you are in Africa, if you want to manage, you really have to become African in a way, and to think, and really to think what you can bring. And I mean, I could extend a bit more, but what we can bring is also in terms of local content, and I can take the example of Angola. We have quite a lot of suppliers. 1/3 of our active suppliers are local. And it's really a day-to-day effort in order to bring new local, even small suppliers, but in our supply chain in order that they grow themselves. And we have launched recently a program in Angola which is called 100 anos sem empreendedores in Portuguese, which means 100 year, 100 startup, where we are helping 100 young people to create their business, whether it is linked or not to the oil and gas or to the solar. But at least we know we are providing this support.
The ecosystem there. Yeah.
So I would say to be close to your question, I think there is our perimeter of action is changing because we are adding new energies, which is important. But I think the willingness to still make business in a respectful way in Africa is persisting and it's still there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Going back to you, Rajit, you and I have been doing good stuff together for almost a couple of decades, starting with Aqua, so on and so forth. And your ambitions at the time with Aqua were very clear on the renewable programs in South Africa. Then you expanded, and it's been a nice kind of journey. And now you're adding Data Vault. And I just want maybe to zoom in Data Vault. Data center is very critical to infra here in Africa. Can you give us how you see it, and most importantly, how Data Vault can make a change to it?
Yeah, thank you, Razam, for this question. So I'm now gonna zoom in a little bit from the holding company Vision Invest to my daytime job, which is Data Vault. I run this company. We've started a couple of years back in this digital infrastructure. And let me very quickly explain a couple of things here. First, in the context of Data Vault, and then I'll try to map it in the context of both the Kingdom of Saudi and also the African dream that we have out there. So, all of you here, in terms of everything that you do every day, you keep hearing the word a dime a dozen times, the AI stack, AI stack, AI stack. And obviously, if I go and ask all the 200 people sitting here your definition of AI stack, either you will choose not to answer, or each one of you will give a different answer in terms of how you define the AI stack. Allow me to give you a very simple definition of the AI stack, as we call it. It's the Data Vault version of the AI stack, and that's important for people to understand how this whole AI thing is eventually going to unfold itself. And by coincidence, it also very closely maps Jensen Huang's definition of the AI stack. I'll not get into the discussion of who came out with it first, obviously he, because he's... But the AI stack, you break it up into 5 simple layers. At the bottom of the layer is what I call the energy infrastructure. Just above the energy infrastructure is what I call the DC infrastructure, the data center infrastructure, which is what has been in existence for the last 20 years. These are the buildings in which you have basically the compute data stored and so on and so forth. They have cooling solutions, they have energy coming in because these are very energy intensive. You need the cooling in order to get the chips always within a certain temperature. They have to be cooled all the time and so on and so forth. The third layer of the stack is what I call the compute infrastructure. Okay, so we just went through energy infrastructure, the DC infrastructure, and the third one is the compute infrastructure. What's the compute infrastructure? That's essentially basically the hardware and the layer of software which virtualizes the hardware. Okay, and what is the hardware? It's basically what you hear all the time, the GPUs. Earlier it used to be the CPUs and stuff like that. And of course the network fabric. The fourth layer of the AI stack is what we call the foundational models. And foundational models are nothing but the Anthropics of the world, the Open AIs of the world, the Mistrals of the world, and so on and so forth. The ones that are doing the large language model training. And on top of it, the last one of that AI stack is basically the applications. The applications that pretty much work using these large language models and make the day-to-day use, whether it's the industrial use or the consumer use or the enterprise use possible. So that's your full AI stack out there. At DataVolt, what we are doing is we are only focused on the first 3 layers of that AI stack, which we call as the infrastructure part. Not everything is the infrastructure, okay? The 4th and the 5th one are primarily software driven. And we focus only on the infrastructure part, which is the energy part, which is the data center critical infrastructure, and then of course the compute infrastructure. We try to, across this whole value chain, work towards delivering what we call the transition of the world from the concept of LCOE to LCC. What does LCOE means? That was the whole discussion for the last decade in the context of energy transition. LCOE is the lowest cost of energy or the lowest cost of electricity. And where we are transitioning now is LCC, the lowest cost of compute. And that's going to be the single biggest enabler in terms of making sure that all of this AI stack eventually gives the value for money, and so on and so forth.
I just want to check that we have. How are we with time? Are you asking us to finish? Okay, all right.
Points that we can walk away with in terms of
Perfect.
balancing
All
the
right,
risk and the
thanks.
reward.
Okay, I'll just
Kept to
fast-
30 seconds as
Yeah.
a maximum.
Yeah,
Go
fast
ahead, and
forward
then
it
Martin.
a minute or two quickly.
Thanks.
And so the whole concept for us is right now, the world has 2 centers of gravities when it comes to AI. And one of them is the US, and the second one is China. Okay. And there is potentially room for a 3rd center of gravity, but that's not coming out very clearly. There is India running after it. There is the Kingdom of Saudi, which is positioning itself for it. There is the United Arab Emirates on the back, and these are the Middle Eastern countries are doing it on the back of the connectivity they have with the rest of the world through the subsea lines, with the availability of energy, which is the biggest enabler, and so on and so forth.
Ranjit, you're going to have to pardon me,
Yeah,
together with
okay.
Dr. Zok, as
So
well as Martin.
the whole idea is
That
to
was your
use,
concluding
I'll use 30 seconds to wrap it up and just say that we are using the kingdom in order to put all of these data centers, which we call as the AI factories, and use the power of connectivity to quickly bring AI to the continent of Africa.
Thank you.
That's the vision.
Thank you, Rajit. We look forward to it. Thanks. I see the same passion as ever. Martin,
Yeah.
just concluding.
No, thank you
comments.
for inviting me. And just to say that, companies like ours, where we are global, but we have to know how to be local as well, which is very important in order to keep this trusty relation with the country. And I will just finish by saying, the security of access to energy is extremely important for all the countries. And the countries, I think, should really look at new energies in terms of energy mix. And not only with renewable or not only with fossil,
It's a mixture
but
of
really to
everything,
make.
yeah.
And this is a good business case here in South Africa.
Thank you very much, Martin and Rajit. Thank you very much.